So there's some misinformation that's going around that kind of needs to be addressed. So I've seen multiple bowyers or survival experts, which nowadays is anybody with a phone who goes outside. And these guys are acting like using seasoned wood for bow making is an antiquated process that's outdated and that there's a better alternative. People are implying that using a green, freshly cut tree and then using the process of fire hardening is superior to using a seasoned stave. This is just blatantly wrong and incorrect. Now, while making use of such a process in a survival situation is kind of a must because you don't have a year or two to season the wood, if you do have the time and you have both options, seasoned wood or green stave and fire hardening, the better option is seasoned wood for bow making. I believe that many of the people who are passing off using seasoned wood is an antiquated process are operating out of self-interest. So bow making has and always will be an art and a craft that takes years to master. Now, for people like myself who have actually put in those years to become proficient, it's very easy to see who's full of crap, who wants just clicks, who wants views. And one of my goals today is to give you guys some information so that you can further know yourself who's full of crap. Let's try to shed some light on what actually happens when you fire harden or kiln dry, whatever process you're doing that's rapidly removing moisture from wood. Let's see what's actually happening. So here I have a red oak board bow that was purchased from Home Depot. And a little disclaimer here, you can make some great beginner bows from board bows, and they offer an added bonus of being able to start immediately, which is great. But they are just that, beginner bows. Boards like this that you buy from the store are kiln dried. That means that the moisture in the wood is forcibly removed by way of massive amounts of heat via a kiln. Let's compare the end grain of a kiln dried piece of wood to a seasoned piece of wood. You can see how much empty space is in the board and how much more solid the seasoned stave is in comparison. Having more void space in your cross section means more weakness. So while applying a massive amount of heat can produce a decent product in a pinch, it will be less reliable over time because of that void space. Now, fire hardening is slightly different than kiln drying, but in both cases, there is a quick moisture release, which stiffens the cellular structure of the wood grain, but also causes added porosity to the cross section. Many say that fire hardening strengthens the belly side of the wood, which is a bit of a half-truth. While it does so in the short term, it effectively makes the belly side of the wood also more brittle, which is a no-go for bows. I have fire hardened my fair share, and I can say from experience that tillering a fire hardened bow is much more risky than tillering a seasoned stave. And while the product can end up amazing, it usually doesn't last. I personally want to make generational bows. I don't want bows that will last 6 to 8 months and then crack and eventually break. I believe that fire hardening was more successful in the past because most Indians had much shorter draws than those of the bows today, so the bows would be much less prone to break. Beckham Outdoors is one of the first people I saw to repopularize the fire hardening method that was used by our ancestors. For the record, he is a great bowyer and he has my utmost respect. I actually went through a phase about 4 years ago where I was fire hardening all sorts of whitewoods. Now, while Mr. Beckham is a legit bowyer and professional, I think that other people have taken his work and have begun to use it for their own gain. Survival experts are popping out of the woodwork with their so-called bow expertise, which really comes down to a process that you could have a second grader learn and repeat on the spot. Whether it be the Comanche bow experts who claim it takes months to make a 30-inch Comanche bow, which is total crap for the record, takes an afternoon, or the people who try to give directions on bow making and point to an early growth ring and call it cambium. The list goes on. The point is, unfortunately, in today's world, stupidity is prevalent and easy sells. I advise all of you to be very wary of the BS and to seek out the true professionals for advice on bow making. Beware the survival experts who try to teach about bows. Beware the bowyers who claim to have made hundreds of bows, but it takes them a couple months just to complete one bow. That makes no sense. Use logic and common sense to set apart the fakers from the real deals. Practice makes perfect, and if a person's work doesn't look very perfected, it is probably a sign that the individual in question didn't put in the advertised practice. Here are some other bow making YouTube channels in no particular order I would trust if I were a beginner and I were trying to glean information and know-how. Check out Beckham Outdoors. He does a lot of whitewood bows and fire hardening techniques. He has a DVD and a download that you can purchase. Clay Hayes, the winner of season 8 of Alone, all-around badass, one of my personal heroes and legend of bow making. Hunt Primitive. This guy can make bows probably faster than anyone I've ever seen. I've seen him make a bow in about an hour. And it was a seasoned Osage stave with the bark and sapwood removed, but the guy has mad skills. Dreamcraft Bows. That guy does some very, very intricate designs. You can tell he's very passionate about his work. I like him. Kramer Amons. Very, very creative filming style. A little bit more on the laminated end of things, a little less on the self-bow side of things, but he still produces a beautiful product. Very likable, very honest. I like the guy. Dan Santana Bows. This guy's videos are perhaps the most relaxing videos on YouTube. You can just watch, sit back. He has a very calming voice, a very kind demeanor, and great information. You can tell he's very well read, so I would very much trust him as well. And the honorable mention is a gentleman named Benjamin Stevens. He's a young guy, he lives in Alaska. He hasn't made nearly as many of them. I think he started making bows recently, or maybe he did a few as a kid or something. I think he's made between 10 and 15, somewhere in there. But he's very transparent, he's very honest, which goes a long way in my book. If you want more bow videos, if you want to just gain additional information, those are my trusted ones so far. And if you're watching this and you have your own bow channel, it either means two things if I didn't mention you. I think you're full of crap, or I just haven't come across your channel yet, which is probably more likely. But yeah, that's all I got for you today. Always remember, live what you love.